Okay. Enough about the cousins. Let's have a conversation. Everybody in the comedy community talking. We have Michael Che, Tim Dillon beefing a little bit online over an SNL sketch. Michael Che is a comedian, hilarious comedian. He's got a Netflix special. Is really brilliant. You should go check him out. And he's also he's the head writer or co-head writer of SNL. And then Tim Dillon, hilarious comedian. He's got an amazing podcast. You should go check Tim's stuff out. I mean, I'm sure you guys know Tim. And just brilliant appearances on Rogan and other pods, etc. And they're beefing over this SNL sketch. The SNL sketch was a Sesame Street spoof, but it was about Ted Cruz. So it was Cruz Street.
Right.
And part of that is Pete Davidson playing Joe Rogan. And he comes out, and this is over this whole beef about Big Bird coming out on Twitter and saying that Big Bird got vaccinated, and Ted Cruz was very critical of that. It's like, why are you trying to convince kids that they should get vaccinated? As if kids watch fucking Sesame Street anymore. I don't think kids have watched Sesame Street in 30 years, but I think we were the last generation.
No, I made a comeback.
Did it really?
Yeah. My friend's kid loves Elmo.
Oh, really?
Yes, I think it's all branded around Elmo, but it's big again, believe it or not.
Fair enough. So there's this whole sketch. Now, a small part of the sketch is the Joe Rogan part.
Yeah.
Right? And basically, Joe Rogan comes out, and he's like, what I do is I take horse pills. I take horse drugs. And then Big Bird's like, well, I'm not a horse. You think I should take that? And he's like, well, I'm a human. I still take horse pills, and blah, blah, blah. And basically what Tim Dillon said is there are 100 different ways to do the sketch and have it be funny. The show is just lazy, mediocre hacks.
Yes.
Now, I'm assuming if you're one of the writers of the sketch, that makes you feel away.
Yep. And then he keeps going. The show is now just lazy, mediocre hacks is the roughest one, I think. But then he tweets more. He says, people saying SNL hasn't been funny since the 70s are wrong. Farley, Rock, Sandler's, Myers, Norm, Sherry O'Terry, and Molly Shannon were brilliant. Tracy Morgan. Also, the Hader McKinnon era was funny. It's maybe the singular greatest U.S. comedy platform, but this sketch was bad. And not bad because it made fun of Joe or ivermectin, but it did it in the laziest way possible. It was talking points and not jokes. Comedy shows can have a point of view. Mine does. But it should also occasionally have comedy. So it was a tweet series. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was an attack on SNL, or a very harsh criticism of SNL. Yeah. Absolutely. So I can understand, if you're Che and that's your show, and this is the show that you've been running for the last few years, specifically the section that Tim is being critical of.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, it was good before you.
Yeah.
But now with you, the shit sucks.
That's a good ass point.
So I can understand how you might feel a way about that. So then Che comes out and he goes, LOL, you got to be kidding me. Tim Dillon, !, question mark, ! Question mark. What's the world coming to?
Then he has two more tweets. One just goes, Tim Dillon in all caps with a question exclamation. And then one in bigger font just says, Tim fucking Dillon?
Yeah.
And then he says, look, I don't want no trouble. And then this is the screenshot right here on the far right.
Somebody was responding to Che and basically saying, hey, Tim Dillon makes $190K a month on Patreon. And Che goes, I don't care if it's a zillion. Which is not true. If he was making a zillion, we would all care.
Yeah.
A zillion dollars? You don't care if it's a zillion? You don't care if there's a person making $1 zillion. If they were literally making $1 zillion on Patreon, you wouldn't care at all. You'd still be making Big Bird sketches if you knew you could make $1 zillion on fucking Patreon. That's not true. That's not true. But Che goes, I know Tim Dillon, and he ain't what you think he is. He's a sweet, humble guy who really tried at stand-up, got nowhere, became a media personality because it's much easier, and we're all very happy for him, but don't get fresh, Tim. Whoa. Now.
Then there's a response. Somebody DMs him and says, he's selling out theaters on tour right now. I'm a fan of both yours, mind you. It's him and Sam Talent doing a theater tour. He just sold out the Beacon. And Che said, and we're all very proud of him. And I don't want no trouble. But in the words of Prodigy, and then he does a Prodigy, some lyric from a song that I honestly don't remember because I couldn't screenshot that. But then Tim responds on Twitter to that. He says, here's the reality. I sell more tickets than Michael Che ever has. And I built something on my own that he could never do. Che has done well for a drunk who can barely read, but his show sucks, and he knows it. And then Che says, all fair points. And I'm very proud of him. I don't want no trouble, which I thought is a funny back and forth on both your ends.
Yes.
And then he said, seriously, folks, what's the world coming to? Che did. And then he said, there's so many white guys of a certain size in my DMs right now.
Right, and they both just go on to kind of like backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, what are you guys' thoughts?
Can't y'all both just be funny? I don't know. Che, you're on top, dude. You don't got to worry about if somebody not beneath you, but like you've been a guy at SNL for 8 years. If a guy that is popping off now and got hot in the last couple years is taking shots at a show you work on, I can see how you get defensive, but also that show doesn't let you do you.
Right.
You're not going to get to do the same shit on your Netflix special that drops on Tuesday as you would on the sketch. The Netflix special is you. Right. This is what NBC will let you put out.
Right. Yeah, I think this is Che promoting a special.
You know what?
There's no chance that he gives a fuck. He don't care.
Yeah.
This is Che promoting the special. The special also comes out when? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Or
today when this podcast
comes
drops.
out. Yeah, of course. So you're going to engage in a beef. You don't have a podcast. You're not necessarily going out and doing podcasts and all these other platforms. You still have to drum up interest for your special.
Right.
It's not like throwing a billboard up in fucking Times Square does anything anymore.
Yeah.
You got to drum up interest. It's pretty convenient that a day before the special comes out or 2 days before the special comes out, there's a beef with one of the biggest comedic media personalities.
Yeah.
And he gave you the alley-oop.
Right.
I texted Dillon. I was like, yo, you gave him every opportunity.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to go to his Instagram to look at what the beef is about. And I promise you, there's probably just one picture saying my special comes out the 16th.
Yeah.
Like, I bet, I didn't see what his thing looked like. I guarantee.
That is exactly what it is.
Okay, of course. Jay's smart.
Yeah.
This guy is smart.
Yeah, he
didn't
really
accidentally
smart.
become the fucking co-head writer of SNL. You do that because you're smart. So, shit. I mean, if it was... That's literally all it is. It's one box. This is hilarious. And that's the name of the special. Shame the Devil. Love it. This is genius. This is like rap tactics. You got the album coming out. Start the beef.
Yeah.
What would Kanye do? What would 50 Cent do?
Yeah.
Right? What would Eminem do?
Yeah.
This is classic rap tactics brought into the comedy world. Start the conversation. Now motherfuckers gonna hate watch the special.
Yep.
All the Tim's fans are gonna come out here like, man, I'm gonna show you who's not funny. I'm gonna show you who's a what do you call him, a failed comic or something like that.
Yeah.
And then all those people count his streams.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
YouTube took away the dislike button.
Yeah,
they can't even dislike his shit if he puts out the trailer on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like this is
not the first time that a comic, probably even Tim, has criticized SNL.
It happens every week. Comics say the fucking show sucks.
Yeah.
Every week.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's become exhausting for comics to shit on it.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting exhausted by it. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason is because like a lot of comics hold it in such high regard.
Yeah.
So like by being maybe rejected or not included in something that they hold, as such an important institution in comedy hurts a lot. So when you see it starting to struggle and kind of not doing that well, like the numbers aren't what they used to be. Mm-hmm. And just that's nature of like a changing sense of humor.
To your point, I'm pretty sure Che's not going to be... I think this is his last season on SNL. I don't think he's gonna be there that much longer.
Who
So
fucking knows?
He's got his own show on HBO. I can't imagine you can juggle them both
Che's
forever.
been leaving SNL for the last 5 years. Every time I talk to him, I'm like, "Is it over yet?" And
now he
goes,
got his
"Yeah,
HBO show though, so he could
again?
pour himself into that.
Right.
So I think this might be his actual. I assume he's leaving by next year. So.
But
who
based
cares
on
if it's just I think now you got your HBO show, now you got your Netflix special. Yeah. I don't know how much longer you keep doing all three. Right. You're gonna focus on the you shit. So to that point, you wouldn't really care if somebody shit on the show you're leaving.
A hunch, and Akaash is right with his hunches.
Son, my hunches are the nicest, bro. I be having hunches.
But who fucking knows? You're saying there's other opportunities for him.
And I'm saying, why would he be that protective of a show that he's probably leaving? Like, you got two other... Nobody shitting on the Michael Che show.
You're always going to be protective over the things that you make. Everybody's susceptible to criticism. If somebody shits over something that's yours, you're going to
I'm trying to agree with you. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, fuck, let me agree with you.
No.
Yeah.
No. What I'm saying is, I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying he's necessarily going to leave. I don't think that he'll leave. But that's just my personal opinion. As much as I try to tell him to leave.
Yeah.
I don't think it will happen.
Right.
Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, same exact thing. I think they both benefit in the beef because, like, Tim's fans will be like, yo, we went up against, the head writer of SNL, like, the old institution, and, like, we won.
Yeah.
So, like, we're the best. Like, it validates their fan
100%.
base. And then Che is going to get all the streams, and he's probably going to get some residual fans that are like, oh, it actually was not bad. Like, I actually enjoyed it.
Che needs people to see how funny he is.
Because that's the thing. He's funny. You're going to watch the special, and even if you don't like what he had to say about Tim,
You got to respect.
you're going to go, no, he's good.
That's my point. Even if you're hate watching, you're going to go like, oh, it's pretty good. And there's going to be a percentage of those fans.
He knows he
that
got the
become
goods,
fans.
so he can have the beef.
Yeah. I do think that it was unfair of him to say. I think there's a couple things that are going on that are unfair. I think it's unfair of him to say, and it's almost like it's almost like a cardinal sin, like to say you're saying to another comic that they failed.
Yeah.
Now Tim is also saying that the show is hack. That's huge. If he didn't use the word,
He said the show is just unfunny hacks now.
Exactly.
So he said the writers are hacks. So he
Yeah.
said you're a hack.
so like they both kind of cross the line. Now this is comedy culture. There's certain things you're kind of not allowed to say to one another. Like you're busting balls at the table. You don't talk really about someone's act. If somebody gets into like their act and someone being hacky or someone doing that, that's where shit is actually important. You're talking about somebody's jeans, somebody's fucking hair, someone's jacket, whatever. We're having fun. But once you start going into that one thing that we're all very sensitive and care about, now you're giving license for you to go the fuck in.
Right. It's real then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky thing. Now, the section of the sketch, this is what's interesting. The sketch itself, if you watch the whole sketch, I actually didn't think it was bad.
Yeah.
Like there's a part with Bert and Ernie
Funny.
that is actually very funny. Like I'm looking at the writing and I'm going into it defensive of Joe. You know what I mean? You know Joe's my guy. So if anybody's being critical of Joe, I'm like, man, fuck you, right?
Yeah.
The guy did so much for me, so obviously. But I watched the whole thing and I was like, okay, there's a couple funny moments. The Joe thing sucks.
Sucks.
There's no joke. The
really
joke
bad.
is I take horse medicine, which we already disproved.
Yeah.
It's like that would have worked the week it came out.
Even
maybe.
the shit he's eating, just make it elk. Like make it a little bit funnier of
Right.
a hacky joke.
But you see what I'm saying about
Yeah.
specifically like it's just dated. Like
Yeah.
bro, I don't know if Che's this much of a mastermind, but part of me thought like he did that shit on purpose.
Here's what's
Write
interesting.
a shitty Joe sketch, right? You're gonna have all the people who fuck with and defend Joe shit on that. The whole internet's gonna start talking. They don't have Trump to criticize anymore, right? So you can't go after Trump. You need the new version of that. You need the new divisive guy. The new divisive guy now, CNN is trying to do it, is
Joe.
You make the show about Joe, and then you make it, if he's a true mastermind,
Right.
you make it criticizable.
Yeah, unfair.
You make it unfair.
If it's a super funny, pointed like parody, then everyone goes, "Oh yeah, that was funny."
If it's hilarious, you got to give it up. It doesn't make any news. If it's not, if it's straight kind of hacky,
Right.
like trust me, if Che's on stage, that's not the joke he's making about horse deworming.
Yeah, no way.
And maybe I say this because I think he's truly a great comedic mind.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that's not the joke.
Yeah.
There's no
You know,
fucking
to
way.
your point,
Yeah.
SNL, that's the 47 seconds they put online on Twitter. Tim Dillon is responding to a tweet that SNL put out.
Oh.
So that's where I'm like, because I was like, before you said that, I was like, why would SNL put that out? That's the 47 seconds you wanted out? Maybe you're right. Maybe it is. This will get everybody talking about us. It puts us back in the spotlight as SNL. You always need people talking about you. And then if you're Che, you're like, yeah, cool. When comics go at it, I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
And I get to promote my shit.
Yeah. That is if he's a mastermind. Now, look, best case scenario is, or like most genius chess move is doing it and leaking it on purpose or specifically choosing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Worst case is they just need people to talk about the show. And if you talk about the motherfucking man who's in charge right now, Joe, there's going to have a conversation. We're having a conversation about it right now.
Yeah.
We talking about that shit? Now, we were talking a little about this yesterday. You had an interesting point about like both of their potential sensitivities. Mm-hmm. And I thought you'd speak on it a little bit more. I thought it was interesting.
So I guess the point that I was trying to extrapolate is like Tim is so much made outside of the industry, and his whole audience is just basically like almost grassroots, and it exists behind Patreon, and it's like all his thing. He has full ownership, whereas Che was like brought into this pre-existing institution in the system, and he's just a part of it.
Yes.
And so a lot of his fans, I think, initially probably came from SNL that were fans of SNL and then became fans of him.
Right.
So he has to like sort of moderate public perception a lot more because he's been grandfathered into this pre-existing system. Whereas Tim is sort of outside of that criticism from like critics and like reviewers and articles and shit like that because he already has such like a prominent like diehard fan base.
So basically, in other words, like Che can get fired.
Right.
And his fans came to him through the show and the institution.
Right.
So they're not going to stop watching the institution.
Right.
They're not going to stop being SNL fans. Right. Matter of fact, if Che don't give them anything new, they might stop being Che fans. So Che is locked to the institution.
And he's got his fans that he got outside of that, and some will rock with him if he leaves
but
or
much
gets fired.
less than the mountain of fans that are watching SNL. And we are critical of SNL's numbers, but it's still a very big popular show. There's no question, right? So I understand why he has to, and I think this is what Mark's saying, why he has to respond to public criticism more, because public criticism is what could get him fired.
Yeah.
I mean, him and Shane are in very different situations, but public criticism is the reason why Shane's not on the show.
Yeah.
Public criticism is probably the reason why everybody who's been fired off the show is fired off the show.
Yeah.
A few sketches come out, people are like, yeah, that person's not that funny. And then Lauren's like, I guess that person ain't that fucking funny.
Yeah.
Adios, see you later. So you got to manage public perception. If someone's coming at you, you got to make them radioactive or cut their legs out.
Yeah.
That person has a criticism that people seem to agree with. You got to be like, but why is this person able to critique?
Yeah.
You're going to listen to this guy?
Yeah.
You got to assassinate the character. It's like a Me Too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if this girl's saying you did some shit, you got to go Portnoy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Buy the champagne bottles, engrave them.
You got to go at the funny.
You got to go at it.
Yeah.
You got to go at the validity.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So I understand, and I thought that was really a poignant observation. And whereas Tim, on the other end, is used to criticism of him, but doesn't have to care as much as long as that criticism isn't coming from his fans.
Yeah, as long as his fans are appeased, he can't get fired.
Yeah, I didn't know that Miles had the little headphones in, and it sounded like he had his hand over his ears and he's bending down, and I was like, am I so boring that you have a headache? Like that's
You got a migraine.
like
dude.
literally he was bent over like this. Like I cannot listen to another fucking word of this guy speak. And then he took his hands off, and then thank God there were like little AirPods in.
Yeah.
Okay, Miles, you almost really made me feel horrible
No.
right there. I felt like Michael Che responding to Tim Dillon tweets here. But
Miles isn't funny.
yeah. But so you understand why Che is reacting oftentimes to these critics, etc. Now, I assume that he's doing that for game.
Yeah.
I assume he knows he could rile up the internet, and when it's time to rile up the internet about something that he has coming out, maybe it's his show, maybe it's a special, maybe it's some project, maybe it's a tour that he's doing, something, I think he knows how to engage and do that.
Right.
And I think that's a sophisticated chess move from a guy who doesn't have a mouthpiece to really promote his stuff.
He also has the shield of the institution. So, like, people can criticize SNL, and he can either just not take the bait, be like, yeah, that's SNL, I wasn't involved, whatever. Or if they do criticize SNL, all of a sudden he can make it personal and be like, no, that's my thing that you're coming at. Because Tim never said anything about Che.
But if you're saying that the show is hack stuff and he's the head writer, it's going to reflect ultimately on him.
But he can choose to not opt in. Like, if you're coming at him going like, yo, Michael Che is the worst, whatever, then you kind of have to respond.
If somebody shits on Flagrant 2, I want to respond.
Right.
Yeah, but
Right?
you're much more intimately. This is Andrew Schultz's Flagrant 2. It's not Michael Che's SNL.
But if he's the responsible party for the writing on the show, if he's the one that greenlights all the things,
It's
I don't
like
know
a
the whole
sub.
process.
It's like responding to a sub as a rapper. You don't have to respond to a sub. He didn't say Michael Che's an unfunny hack.
Son,
but
if sorry to cut you, but if somebody shits on Rockefeller Records, Jay-Z got to feel a way about
Jay-Z
that.
made
yeah, Jay-Z's the owner. He's him and Dame founded that
That's
shit.
a good point.
He created it.
It's like Memphis Bleak being like, yo, how fucking dare you come at Rock? And they're probably criticizing Memphis in particular, but point is, it's
I see what you're saying. There's a little bit more distance, but you're still going to personalize something that
you can personalize it.
that you are 100% tied to. For example, if the biggest thing you're known for is this institution, and you take responsibility for what's happening in the institution, even if the institution supersedes you, that's the biggest thing you're known. If someone shits on India,
Yeah.
do you know what I'm saying? Like, if someone shits on my favorite basketball team, I'm defensive.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we get defensive over the things that we relate to.
But I haven't been spending 5 years saying I'm going to leave India. This is my last year on India.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think it's probably marketing, and we say this all the time. If somebody takes a little shot, it's like, yo, that guy's not even worth it. Don't respond. We say that to each other. This guy's not worth it. That's not worth it. Why would you get into that? But it is worth it if you got some shit to promote. It's very worth it.
Yeah.
It's very worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
I bring that up just to say he's positioned in a cool way where he can either choose to opt in or choose to not engage.
Yeah.
And he took this time to engage.
You know what's funny is the way that he did it. Now, I know Che's plugged in. He's a comic, so he has to know what's happening in the world, and he has to know the shifting of the guard and how, like, you know, traditional TV shows aren't really doing what they used to do. They're not doing that for people's careers, etc. And I thought it was a little wild to say the shit about, and again, you know, Tim's opened it up with the hacks, but I thought it was a little wild to say he's a failed comic because, like, how do you judge the success of a comic?
Yeah.